Whoa, hey, it's been a while. And wouldn't you know it, the one and only Hollow Knight Silksong has finally released after 7 long, excruciating years. But now that it's out, and I have fully completed the game once, it's time to milk it for all it's worth. And what better place to start than removing the silk from the song? Is it possible to beat Hollow Knight Silksong without silk? But why is this a challenge run in the first place? Why is silk so important? Well, with silk, we can use various silk skills to improve our combat prowess. We can run faster, we can recreate the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, and most importantly, it is one of the only sources of healing during combat. So that means without silk, we will not be able to heal at all without resting on a bench. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I will also not be using any tools at all. We are only going to use the Radiance given gift of the needle. In a sense, this could also be called raw dogging Hollow Knight Silksong, but I don't know how well YouTube will respond to that. Anyways, let's get straight into the fall and get introduced to the main character, the Hollow Knight Silksong. I then attempt to take out the secret boss within a secret area of a secret area, and after an embarrassing death, dive kick the Moss Mother back into the ground and enter Bone Bottom for the first time, where I'm surrounded by poor people. Couldn't be me, I'm drowning in rosaries. Okay, let's actually get into the gameplay. Without silk, every room now feels like it could be my lost. The combination of enemies, tied together with disappearing platforms and spike traps everywhere, makes for an overall unpleasant experience, to say the least. And now, given the fact that I have a genuine skill issue with jumping gaps, it makes this situation a little worse. And every single death sends me all the way to Bone Bottom. Now, to get out of this stony hell, we need to find a Bell Beast stuck in silk. Dear viewers, this is no ordinary silk, as it cannot be cut down by any ordinary means, since the silk regenerates. And the only way to progress onwards is through the silk. Every other path is either blocked by a lake of lava or blocked by a wall. And Greg, no walk through wall. So we have to do the unthinkable and go into Moss Home in order to get the silk spear. Yes, you heard that right. We need to use the silk spear, the spear made of silk. My silk. Okay, maybe I shouldn't phrase it like that. The Silk Spear's only purpose in this playthrough is as a weed whacker, as it can be used to permanently destroy the silk blocking our path. Luckily, we don't need to use it in the area we obtain it, as we can just backtrack all the way back to the Bell Beast and free him from his confines with 3 whole threads of silk. Challenge run failed. Video over. Greggy Grease found dead in an alleyway with 19 bullet wounds. I think it's time we add 3 threads of silk to the counter. Editing Gregory here. Turns out I'm a little stupid, because if you open the map, there is a conveniently empty spot in this map that seems to have slipped my mind, the Wormways. If we make enough money to buy a simple key from the Bone Bottom vendor, we can unlock the door to the Wormways, which unlocks a straight path all the way to Shellwood, basically skipping an entire third of this game, as well as the Bell Beast. So we don't actually need to add silk to the counter, once again proving, beyond any reasonable doubt, that the real resource being wasted here isn't silk, but your time instead. But anyways, what's done is done, and I've already fought the Bell Beast, so I might as well talk about it. Yeah, he's quite an easy boss. The Bell Beast has 3 whole attacks. 1 more attack, and I might have had to quit the run entirely. He does a slide which we can pogo to avoid. He throws a couple bells at us, once every Greggy Grease upload. And lastly, he jumps, which we can just stand still to avoid. Needless to say, the Bell Beast was down. We can finally secure our route into the Deep Docks. The trip into the Deep Docks should be a short one, as all we need to do here is gain the ability to run. Now we are no longer restricted to a mild power walk to move, and just as quickly as we entered this area, we can now exit. Lace. She is a more challenging individual. She, like Hollow Knight Silksong herself, uses a pin to fight, thus making this a 1v1 of pure skill more than anything. But remember what I said previously about the whole skill issue thing. Performing all of these boss fights near hitless is a struggle, as the only thing taking more damage than my character is my pride. But through endless persistence, I start memorizing her moveset and understanding her inner workings. Her dash can be pogoed, her 2 slashes can be dashed away, her parry can be avoided with a leap, and her slash slam can be avoided just by standing to the side. With her movements completely analyzed and studied by my high-tech algorithms, which are being calculated in my prefrontal cortex, I can deliver the final blow and send her away. For now, at least. The Farfields, home to the most annoying creatures and parkour in Hollow Knight, including a sub-area where the local wildlife consists entirely of ants, flying ants, and slightly bigger ants. Truly the pinnacle of insectoid warfare. So I'm exercising my divine rights as a content creator and skipping Hunter's March. You can go cry about it if you want, because I know I will. What is our goal here though? To get a wardrobe upgrade from the seamstress, cue 10 minutes of spine farming, and now we have the ability to inflate ourselves and be carried by the wind. Oh yeah, and we also encounter the 4th chorus. Now it wasn't all too difficult, but the arena we fight in is an entirely different story. That metal contraption is not the real boss, as I am currently standing on the actual boss fight. The 4th chorus can demolish the floor as he pleases, and my body is a machine that turns decent decision-making skills into a lava ball. Yet after smacking his chin enough times, he breaks the side platforms into geysers, which finally allows me to drop a bomb on his head. His death, along with the geyser ride, gives us a straight shot right up into Greymoor, home of scissors, the fucking birds that I hate, and Moorwing. Now I do hear you complaining from the other side of the screen that I'm rushing through this area to get through the bosses, and to that I say, yes. But hear me out. Would you like to be stuck in a room with this avian demon? Yeah, I don't think so. But back to Moorwing. He is what I like to call the filter. Everywhere you look, people will complain about his difficulty, even to the point of downloading a mod which removes his double damage. But let me show you 2 easy strategies to beat him. Strategy 1 is what I like to call patience. 1 hit, dodge away. 1 hit, dodge away. He dashes, jump, pogo, and dash away. Buzzsaws, jump and dash away. There is no timer. There is no rush. In order for one to achieve victory against Moorwing, one must beat the battle of greed within themselves. As if one does not get hit, one needs not use Silk. With the inner battle won in your heart, only then can you win the battle against Moorwing. There's also option 2. With Moorwing defeated, we can proceed into Balhart, where the residents are practicing for the sequel to Doki Doki. But past Balhart into Shellwood is the home of our next upgrade, the Wall Climb, which is basically vital for any sort of traversal around the map. Nevertheless, progressing upwards leads us to Sister Splinter. Personally, this is the easiest boss in the game, easier than the Moss Mother at the start of the game, which I barely mentioned. The dance is as simple as left, right, left, destroy the vines, repeat. I didn't even die to her, I died to her minions. So by law, this counts as a no-death run. With Sister Splinter sent reeling on the floor and the wall climb obtained, I can head back to Balhart and discover a secret government operation right in the heart of the Bal. Heart. Widow has been silking up the townsfolk, and as an anti-silk activist, I cannot stand for this. The problem is, any widow born after September 4th can't fight. All they know is scuttle, throw they ball, silk, be evil, eat hot chip, and run. And it's an even bigger problem, considering nearly all of her attacks do 2 damage, which is nearly half of my health bar. Just for comparison, in the original Hollow Knight, only a couple endgame bosses and gigantic enemies deal 2 bars of damage, including, but not limited to, in Silksong, she does 2 damage, and so does this little stupid thing. And this situation is even worse, considering that I can't heal the double damage she deals to me at all. Her first phase is usually easy. Most of her attacks can be dodged without hesitating, but her second phase is when it starts getting hectic. To summarize, she doubles it and gives it all to me. Twice as many bulbs at the same time, and she also halves the time taken for her wind-ups, which of course deals double damage. And once I get hit, I lose all focus, leading to a graceful cycle of getting hit again and again until I wake up on the bench once again. Now, if I can label myself as anything, it's persistent. So I keep throwing myself at this boss, sometimes literally, and you know how that ends up. And without being able to recover damage or heal at all, I have to play it perfectly. I don't have any other choice. I have to dodge all of her bowls, predict her lightning fast dash attack before she even initiates it, and before I knew it, she had fallen. And my sleep schedule is ruined. But I had also gained the Needlein, which we can use to play the needle like a harp, with the use of Silk. That means we can't use it outside of cutscenes. That also means that the silk doors found around the map will be inaccessible to us. And that also means we won't be able to upgrade the Hunter's Crest by Ava. It's time for a change. Behind Bone Bottom, there lies a small church. And after an easier than easy wave of pilgrims, I gain the Wanderer's Crest. This thing is a game changer. Its moveset is twice as fast as the Hunter's Crest, effectively doubling our damage output. And the best part, we no longer dive diagonally. It's the small victories. But there's a secret that the game doesn't tell you about the Wanderer's Crest. This crest has a hidden passive. If you have a full silk bar, which is always, considering I can't use any of it, you have a 2% chance to land a critical hit for triple the damage. But enough of that. It's time to head up into the blasted steps and actually progress into Act 2. My strategy for this area is simple. I refuse to interact with anything. This area is a hotspot for double damage, and my plan of action is just to ascend. Any more interaction outside of that, and I'd risk jumping into a pit of worms, both literally and figuratively. But I make my way to the final door before Act 2, and I realize I have not completed the requirements to open the door.
That fucking bird that I hate.
That fucking bird that I hate. That fucking bird that I hate.
Okay, now we can open the door with the Nidolin. Okay, so this is a problem. Playing the Nidolin takes up silk, and thus will fail the run. But there is another way to get into Act 2. That's through the recreation of Hull itself, Sinner's Road. And just when I thought it couldn't get worse, we have to go through Bile Water as well. These two areas are here to remind you that level designers do in fact feel hatred, and it's all being directed towards the player. Luckily, we don't need to stay here long, as we just need to reach the mist. The gimmick with this area is that the rooms will infinitely repeat unless you use the Nidolin to activate the fireflies, which will guide you to the next area. I'm sure you can see the problem here, but theoretically, we don't need to use the fireflies, as I am using something called raw human intuition. Statistically, if I keep throwing myself at different exits, I will eventually find the right one. The probability of that is just very low. I cannot emphasize how low of a chance I have to get out of this area without the fireflies. It's really almost impossible. I might have to just give up right here and add a couple numbers to the counter. This is the exhaust organ, by the way, the place we need to be, and the area where we fight the Phantom. This boss reminds me a lot about Lace. Gee, I wonder why. The pin fighting, the parrying, the ground slamming. The concept is similar to Lace, although there are some differences, such as the Phantom's moves consisting of a 3-strike combo, a pin throw, multiple ground slams in phase 2, and parrying. Lots and lots of parrying. But, having already practiced against Lace, I can take the upper hand and use her own spells against her. So with Phantom defeated, we can now finally progress into Act 2. What's this? Okay, cool. A member of my crew has just informed me that playing the Nidolin in this section does in fact not take up any silk, since it's considered a cutscene. And he has also informed me that if I don't kill the Lost Judge, then I am, and I quote, a little bitch. Interesting. Well, you know what that means. The Lost Judge is a deceptively simple boss. Although he made me struggle on my first playthrough, once you get the flow of the fight, you can do it hitless. But unfortunately at this time, we cannot provide an accurate example of that, due to a massive company-wide skill issue. Nevertheless, as long as you keep your distance and not let greed overcome you, you can slink past the first phase into phase 2. But this is when the judge's attacks get a little explosive touch, along with increased range, speed, and a new armada of attacks to ruin our day. Don't worry though, every attack still takes 2 masks away from your health bar, but it is still the same strategy as the first phase, with the only difference being the distance at which you have to run to avoid its attacks. But try as it may, the Lost Judge becomes the last of its lineage. And now that the completely pointless and avoidable boss fight is over, we can enter Act 2. Now we can go one of two ways. We can go the intended route, which involves an area filled with buzzsaws in the shape of squares, handheld nuclear bombs, and the homeless population of Detroit. Or we can scale the scales, which entirely skips that area and leads us straight into the citadel of Farloom. I think the choice is obvious. Now before we do anything else, let's be smart about things at least once in this video and chart our plan of action. Firstly, I'll have to ascend past the Citadel Spa and get the bench by the slab. Side note, I don't know why I did this, considering there was a bench inside the spa. Anyways, we then have to make a stop by the dining room, because I remember that we can upgrade our weapon with a pale oil held by this old fart. But I quickly evict myself when my repressed memories about carrying a cake halfway across Farloom hit me like a blue truck. So I have to ascend even further to the uppermost point of the coral chambers, where I will die to one of the guards. So I will redo the entire path, and this time I will die to the guards again and lose all of my collected cash. Once I actually get past the guards, I am going to have to fight the Cogwork Dancers, which isn't too difficult, considering they show you the exact location where they will attack next. This fight will be less of a struggle and more fun than anything else. This is the first time I've actually complimented a boss while doing this challenge. And when the boss is defeated, 3 lost objectives need to be claimed, in the form of songs. Silk songs. The first one is located at the bottom of the Whispering Vaults, where we can also get a pale oil. The second is located at the center of the forum. And finally, the last is found at the peak of the Cogwork core. But before we find all of the skongs, we have to find the claw line, as it is required to even access these areas in the first place. Now the claw line is an interesting ability. Although it provides unparalleled traversability, it also consumes 1 whole string of silk. So, yeah, it's not like I needed to complete the game or anything, yeah. 2 of the 3 final areas we need to reach requires the use of the claw line, and many uses at that. I wish I had some sort of trick up my sleeve, but no. Unfortunately, we are fresh out of luck. Maybe if I had done this challenge 7 years into the future, where many glitches have been found, I might have been able to complete this game without Silk. But the flow of time is irreversible, and we continue. Speaking of continuing, in order to get out of this area, we are going to have to use the clawline ability 9 times. 9 whole lines of silk wasted on one area. Well, the least I can do is play a calming sound to dampen the pain of the counter increasing. To get to the Whispering Vaults skong, I am going to have to go through... Trobio is actually a fun boss, despite the many times he has killed me. His attacks are quite random and can catch you off guard if you're not prepared. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about. I'm a master at being caught off guard. Although his fireworks are no match for the art of a crazed individual slapping him silly with a stick. Trobio falls, and we get our first skong. And next up, we have to ascend the forum. Holy hell. This place is single-handedly the worst area in Metroidvania history. I say that with the full sober sincerity of a man who has stared into the abyss, and the abyss started throwing balls at him. It may be my rage speaking, but at least right now, in my soul, I believe this area to be the worst object created by human hands. Allow me to paint you a picture. An area full to the brim with spikes, robotic flies, and grappling points. Grappling points that mock me, as I have to grapple them in order to open pathways to progress. In total, we need 12 strands of silk to complete this area, and that's as well trying to avoid as much silk use as possible. We doubled the amount of silk we have used, and that's not even the worst part of this area. I don't even care about failing the challenge at this point, as I would like to direct you to the room on the left. Every single tragedy in human history has been converged into this one tiny room. I don't know how Team Cherry managed to piss me off this much. Once you enter this room, an ambush awaits you. It starts off deceptively simple: 1 bell bearer, 1 sword fighter, and 1 flyer, but it gets progressively worse. Next is 2 sword fighters, then a flyer and a bell thrower. I want to give a special thanks to the bell throwers for calculating the exact trajectory needed to piss me off. Then come the silk eaters. Yes, I know you can permanently remove them with the use of the double jump. Unfortunately, in order to get the double jump, we have to complete the Mount Fae parkour, and guess what you need to use for that. So no double jump for us. But it's fine, my suffering is my content. And after that is 2 of the metalheads. Hit and run tactics work for them. The B-men, they could be difficult for the unprepared, but as long as you just camp under them, you'll be fine. Yet finally, the big boy arrives. It's the False Knight from the original Hollow Knight, except he puts a grenade at the end of his hammer. On my first playthrough, where I had access to tools and silk, I would usually gun this guy down, saving my needle as a last resort. In this challenge, however, it's my only resort. My advice is pretty simple. If he jumps, walk under him, and attack if you see an opening. This is pretty simple Art of War stuff. And once he dies, the path is still closed because there's more. Double the bell throwers, double the bees, and double the big boys. If only I could share some sort of master plan or life hack that I used to get past this. But all I used up was time, effort, and the souls of my future children in the deal with the devil to pass this battle. Now I not only had to get past that entire gauntlet while avoiding almost every hit, but I also have to not die right here to double trouble. I even tried to change crests again, but to no avail. The only thing I can say is that the only way I beat this was through dumb luck. One of the guardians remained in the back line, while I was pestering his friend in the front, and once the first one was down, the next big boy was as simple as the first time we fought him. It appears I've wasted all of my luck for the next 200 years. But it was worth it, as I have achieved the Skong. But it's not the last one, because we have another parkour section to complete. And yes, I do have to use the claw line, and thus expend silk. But before we do that, it's time for a change of pace. Returning back to Shellwood, I gather up 6 polar parts, go to Bilewater, and get a tentacle baby. I then return to Shellwood to greet the father of the baby. After a small blood transfusion, I am now pregnant. I am not making this up. But the cool thing about being pregnant is that it comes with a whole new moveset. This is the Witch's Crest, which is in my opinion slightly worse than the Wanderer's Crest for this challenge, considering I don't have access to critical hits anymore. However, as long as we are cursed, we cannot equip any charms, and the game prevents us from healing. Now this challenge is enforced by the game itself. To the cogwork core, I first have to open up this area with 1 clawline grab. Amazing start. And following that, I have to use the zip line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times in total. Man. And at least at the top, we are not greeted by some impossible gauntlet, but instead, the video game equivalent of coloring inside the lines. All we have to do is match up the notes, and we get a chorus of the last and final Skong. We can finally go back to the start and play our Nidolin, silk-free because it's a cutscene, and ascend the elevator to the patch of flowers. We all know that final battles always have to take place in a field of flowers, and this time, it's with Lace once again. The first beatdown was justifiable since it was self-defense. This time, it's for the love of the game. The strategy is largely the same as the first time we met her, although she has a couple new moves that will punish pogos. So we try to keep our feet on the ground most of the time. She can also parry us if we aren't careful, but we can avoid this most of the time by jumping. I do have the reaction time of stale bread, so most of the time I eat it in the face by keeping my distance, jumping over her dashes and double slashes only, and some crisp gameplay never seen before. I eliminate her, and I begin my final ascent to Grand Mother Silk.